didn't have to read the application. So that's
Recording in progress.
Whoa. You don't know what they have, and we'll give it to them. And so we did. And they looked at it strange, like, this looks familiar, you know? That's funny.
Pretty clear picture. All right, it is 6 p.m. We'll get started. We may have another member of commission joining us shortly. Maybe a few people trickle in. So we'll leave the sign-up sheet. Did you grab that in just a few minutes? Yeah. But we'll go ahead and get started. Today is Wednesday, August 14th. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. We are in the Providence City Office building. We good? Are we recording? Okay, sorry. I will call to order and we will do a roll call. On my far right, I have Michael Fortune. And next to Michael, we have Bob Henke. I'm Shelley Nazer. And then I have Bob Washburn and Joe Chambers to my left. We will go ahead. I have asked Michael Fortune to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll call item 1 of the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. We'll consider approval of the minutes for updated minutes of July 10th, 2024. Do we have any discussion or updates on the minutes?
I went through and looked at things. I didn't see anything. I thought it all looked pretty good.
Great. I have I mean, I really don't want to make it all about me, but Ty, if you could just correct the spelling of my name toward the bottom of the minutes. There are 3 lines where it's spelled with an S instead of a Z. Those are, you want me to tell me the line numbers? You find it? Okay. Bob's, do you guys see anything?
No, I wasn't at that meeting.
It's easy.
Except for
2 birds, 1 stone.
Same answer.
Okay. I will entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we accept the minutes with the corrections that we identified for the July 10th, 2024 meeting, that we accept them.
Okay, we have a motion from Michael Fortune. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion. Anything, email or text?
One, for, not general comment, but one on the general plan amendment.
Okay.
Did you not see that one?
That'll be for the item later, so.
All right. Great.
So if we want to address item 2s and 3, we would wait.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
This is the time to address whether or not the snacks that the city has in their room are the correct snacks, or they should get different snacks in there.
All right. Well, if we don't have any general public comments, we will close that item. And we will move on to our public hearing. Item number 2, public hearing rezoned for parcels 02-103-0001 and 03-103-0002. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing to take questions and comments from the public regarding an application from Cody Robbins and David Miller to rezone 02-103-0001 and 03-103-002, which are located in the general area of 411 East and 3.
Demand. But in order to make sure that everyone is aware of our moderate income housing goals and objectives, they're always listed in our staff report. The findings of fact that we look at when we do a rezone, we look at the Utah Code 109A505 and 506. We look at Utah Code 109A302. We look at Providence City Code 10-4-1, and of course we look at the general plan and the associated master plans, and summaries of those are all included in the staff report. We also look at Providence City Code 10-5, which talks about our sensitive areas, Providence City Code 10-6-1, which lists the designated uses in each zone, and 10-8-1, which lists the area regulations for each zone. In our conclusions, Providence City has divided the city into zoning districts. Prior to making a recommendation on this request, the Planning Commission will hold a public hearing, which you're filling that tonight. The city's zoning districts include both the Ag and the R112 zoning districts. The general plan, vision, and key initiatives are listed in the report. The property is currently zoned Ag. The general plan, future rezone and existing districts, and annexation area anticipate these properties will be R112. So it is consistent with our general plan. Our framework map in the general plan suggests the preferred scenario for this area is residential. There are within 1 mile area. Now, 1 mile is for a regional park, and there is one regional park, which is Von Bear Park, which is within 1 mile. The following parks are still within the 1 mile area, but they are past their general service area for the type of parks they are. That's 2 neighborhood parks, Uptown and Brager, and 2 local parks, Cattle Corral and Jayswell. There are no proposed trails for this area. There are proposed trails around, but not this specific area. The transportation map, figure 33, shows 400 east extending north to Spring Creek Parkway and 300 north extending as proposed minor collectors. This area is, oops, I think I skipped a page. Okay. This area is included in our 40-year water right plan. It's included in our 2020 wastewater master plan. It's included in our 2019 stormwater plan, and it's included in our 2020 culinary master plan. And the way this works, we collect impact fees. Well, the developer provides water, either by fee of lieu, water shares, or water right. And so that fulfills the requirements of the water right plan. And he provides those at the time he records the final plat. The wastewater master plan, we have 2 different collection fees that go along with, we have wastewater and we have a collection, we have a treatment and a collection impact fee. And both of those impact fees will be collected at the time the people come in for zoning clearance on the individual buildings. So that will fulfill our wastewater master plan and our sewer master plans. Our stormwater master plan, while we do not collect impact fees on it, the developer's storm drainage system design will be included in the construction plans that will accompany the final plat. And at that point in time, we will make sure that the development is meeting the requirements for stormwater system. And then on our culinary water master plan, it's the same as the sewer collection and waste and treatment. At the time of the zoning clearance for the primary structure, a culinary water system impact fee will be collected. We collect park and street fees as well, impact fees, and the same applies to them. Even though the developer is putting in roads, they're still larger roads that the development will utilize, and so those impact fees go towards those larger capacity projects. Our city is small enough in a geographical area that we can use street impact fees throughout the entire city, because we're within I think it's less than a 3-mile radius, I think, in order to be within Providence City, and they figure that many people drive within that range quite frequently. So our citizens use our whole city for the most part, is what they say. We talk about the sensitive areas, and there are, as the developer's statement indicated, this area does not have sensitive areas as defined in Providence City Code 10-5-2 and 10-16-3, which is the flood potential. The summary of the use chart for the R112 was attached to this report, and the summary of the area regulations for the R112 and the Ag District is also attached so that you can see what the use, not the ag district, but the R112, what the uses will now be allowed to happen in this, if you go R112. As far as condition goes, prior to making recommendations to the city council, the planning commission shall hold a public hearing. The applicant shall meet all applicable city, state, federal laws, codes, rules, and approval by the city of any application submitted or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and/or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. So, questions on the staff report?
I
Let's go ahead and do questions after the public hearing.
Okay,
We'll listen to the public first, and then we might bring you back up for
okay.
some discussion.
This is a clarification.
Oh, sure.
It's not a question per se. The Cache County GIS has these parcels listed as 02-103-0001 and 02-103-0002.
Mhm.
Which, and on all of the applicant forms, it references those same numbers. But on our form, we have 03-103
That on the agenda?
0002.
Oh, there, I see.
It's on the agenda, it's on everything that we
I
have
see.
here. It's,
Okay.
I believe it's incorrect, at least that they're
Yeah,
not
it should be
consistent.
02.
So I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about, on the record,
Mhm.
we have the correct
Yes.
information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's clarify that. The proper parcels on the record are 02-103-0001 and 02-103-0002.
Right, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you for catching that. All right, so we will go ahead and invite public comment. I would just like to let you all know that we don't want to be here all night, so we'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes to go ahead and discuss what you come here to let us know. We are here for you. This is what we're here for tonight, is to hear what you have to say. We welcome your comments, and we hope that you can help us make a good decision, because we're really here for you. So I'll go ahead and invite the first person on the list. I have Sam Lindquist. If you'll just come up to the mic, state your name and the city you live in. Where you going? Do we have Sam? Did you want to come up and make some comments?
I did not request any comments.
Oh, okay. Just here for the public hearing. Okay. So maybe I'm looking at well,
Had one list over there.
yes, I do. I have a list. So some are just here for the public hearing, but if you want to make a comment, I guess we'll try. Kent, were you wanting to make a comment tonight? Okay.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Minnie, were you wanting to make a comment this afternoon?
It's Mimi, but
Mimi, oh, I'm so sorry.
Minnie works too.
Thank you.
Hello, and yes, my name is Mimi Recker, and I live at 280 North, 400 East in Providence. And I want to just start by thanking you all for your service on the commission. It's much appreciated. I've lived in Providence for over 25 years, and like many of us have seen the big growth that's happening, and particularly in the last few years. And I just want to make sure we're intentional about planning for this and making sure that the impacts follow the city standards and are minimized to the extent possible. So again, thank you for that. I wanted to just speak about this rezone and urge you to consider opposing it at this time. There's a number of reasons, but I'm just going to touch on one this evening. And the first one has to do with access to the development. There's 2 access points provided. One comes from 400 East on the south end. So that would be between 200 North and 300 North. And that would serve access to a development that's, I don't know, some potentially 40 homes. I'm not sure the exact number because I haven't seen a plat map. So that's a substantial amount of traffic, 40 homes times 2, 3 drivers times multiple trips a day. And to come down 400 East, you, in that area between 200 North and 300 North, is a substandard road. It is about 20 feet wide, so it's really a one-car road at any one time. And there is currently no curb and gutter, there are no sidewalks. So I would urge consideration of how we can bring this road up to code if in fact it is going to serve a subdivision with this many new homes and this potentially trips per day. Who will pay for upgrading this road to become a minor collector road as it is mentioned in the Providence Master Plan? I absolutely think there has to be curb, gutter, and sidewalk because this will become a minor collector road. And one other thing I would like to point out is this is on a slope, and it's a pretty serious slope. So taking a 20-foot road and making it the required width plus curb, gutter, plus sidewalk is going to really increase, obviously, the width of this, which will cut into properties, but more importantly, make the slope very steep and potentially quite the engineering challenge. So I really want the city to consider how this would be done and who will pay for it. I understand impact fees can be spread all over the city, but this is a non-trivial enterprise, in my opinion. And as an example, 400 East was recently worked on in the previous block to the south, and that project took, I think, 9 months to work on one road. And after that 9 months, there still are no sidewalks, curb or gutter. They still haven't fixed the irrigation, and there's still no striping. So I'm concerned about the extent of this project, how long it will take, and making sure this is done right before you approve this zoning change. Thank you very much.
Mimi,
Oh,
can I ask?
We make a recommendation.
sorry?
We don't approve, we make a
Fair,
recommendation.
that's fair. The city council does. Thank you for that clarification.
Can I ask you
Yeah.
a question? I know you mentioned it, but I was curious if you could tell me your address again. I'm curious if you said you were on 400,
Correct. 280 north, 400
280,
east.
280 north. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that
Appreciate your
clarification.
comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will clarify that for everyone in the audience. We are just a recommending body. We are here to represent you and to make a recommendation to the city council on what we recommend that the citizens or the planning commission would make on this decision. So they will be making the final decision. So you may want to attend that city council meeting as well. They will listen and they will review the notes from tonight's meeting. But that's another option for you to participate and hear what they have to say. All right. Next on the list here, I have Neil Larson.
Mimi said everything that
She
I could
took
have
care of
said.
it. Excellent. Wonderful. All right. Then we have Scott Booth.
Hi, I'm Scott Booth. I live at 260 North, 400 East. I've been there just a couple of years. I just wanted to start off by saying that you don't have to recommend this area. We have, the buyers bought this as an agricultural zone or zoned agricultural. And I think they should keep it as an agricultural zone because Providence is kind of losing its rural feel. We're kind of going towards more of a bedroom community, and we actually don't really have that many amenities. The park that was mentioned has like 0 play structures. It's mostly a feeding park and green space. So you could recommend waiting and really just seeing what the needs of all the new development of those houses are, and see the plan developed a little more before actually committing to this project. As mentioned, there could be a lot of traffic. I think it's like a third acre for each of those houses, and so depending on, I don't know exactly how many acres there were, but you could have around 50 houses, and that with like 3 cars average per household, that's like 150 cars that are traveling down our road now. And currently we have about 11. So it's a huge increase. And, you know, when I bought my house, one of the reasons that I did buy it was because of that feel of this local kind of more rural setting. And it's why I paid the price that I did, which was quite a lot. So, you know, it's something that I feel like doesn't have to be done, at least now. Plus, you know, there's still a ton of construction. So you know, if this goes through, there's going to be like 2 years of construction at least for our neighborhood. That's trucks going in and out, doing, you know, hauling dirt, doing all their things, the backup noises in the morning, all throughout the day, and it's just on and on. And I don't think that anybody on the street really thought that they were signing up for that when they came in. So, you know, we have a nice little street. The kids, they ride their bikes up and down the street. We have neighbors that come in from outside of our that little section of street, and they come in and they look across the barn and they watch the sunset, and it's a beautiful scene. You know, I love to see the kids and actually the elderly people walking their little dogs, and they walk down, they stop at the fence, they look at the sunset, they all comment, take pictures. It's a great feeling, and I think that'll be lost. You know, one of the people here flies his remote control airplane around that, and I've had people in the community, when he flies at night, they're amazed at, you know, the skill and the show that's given. And I feel like, you know, 150 cars, that's going to go away because the runway's the street, and we can do that because we have 11 cars. So I think there's really no obligation to rezone that, and I don't really feel like it's necessary at this time. I think there's a lot of things that the community could focus on for the next 10 years or so, and we can see what happens and see what the needs are. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott. All right. Next up, Shannon, were you wanting to speak as well?
I'm Shannon Booth. I also live at 260 North 400 East. And as my husband said, we've bought our home there 2 years ago, and wanting a more rural feel for our family to grow and to live in. And this project would definitely diminish that feel that we have on our road and in our neighborhood. As you know, one of the great things about Providence is its small town feel, its rural attributes. When parcels of land are rezoned to be residential, you lose that integrity of that fabric of the community. So I would recommend that this, my hope is your recommendation would be to not move forward with this at this time. As mentioned previously, just the access for that road is not up to the standards it needs to be. And like we said, we enjoy the activities that we can do now on our road, and the traffic would just ruin that lifestyle that we have and enjoy as neighbors. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have, I don't have anybody else on the sign-up sheet. Do we have anyone else that would like to make some comments before we close the public meeting? You're up next. Okay, go ahead. Yes.
I thought I was on the list. I was under Sam.
Oh, it could be. Sam. Okay, yes.
Okay.
There's 2 columns here.
No
It's
stress.
kind of, I'm not sure which one's which. Go ahead
No
and state
stress.
your name for the record.
So my name's Lara Lindquist, and I live at 299 North 400 East, so that corner lot on the opposite side of the street. And I have a question about the water shares and if those will be transferred to the city or if they're owned by the developer now. Is there clarification on that I could get, or do we know that yet?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
Jody, do you want to go ahead and answer that question?
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be great. I just don't,
ahead,
it
yeah.
was just a question
please,
that
that-
I don't know yet. So,
We own the water shares now, and our
Okay.
intention is to transfer them to the city
To the
as
city.
part of
okay.
the development if everything goes.
Okay. So my question with that, or I guess my recommendation, is the irrigation, the way that it's set up around our house is like around our house. So, and it's really funky, the different, the way that the water goes is like a 180 around our home. And so my recommendation would just be to update that to current standards with however the water is to flow. You know, that's pretty rusted. And of course, we worry about stormwater from the developments up above. It really would flow down 300 East right into our home. And then if that irrigation has anything to do with that, I just worry about that in our home. So I just want to know kind of who owns those, where they're headed, and then how that will be dealt with if it is rezoned. So I guess my recommendation is just, hey, here's a little flag we should think about if we are to move forward with anything regarding the rezoning, the construction, what the city is responsible for, and what the developer is responsible for. So that's it.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
And thank you for your service. We really appreciate it.
And
So,
I would encourage you also to speak with the irrigation company.
yeah.
Have
I haven't yet, but I'm happy to. Like I said, if he
yeah.
owns it and it's transferred to the city, would the city be responsible for that, or would it be on Spring Creek? Like I don't know who to.
The city
Talk
would
to you
use
about that.
our shares for culinary purposes. We don't
Okay.
use a lot for secondary purposes.
Okay.
We would intend to use that for culinary if possible.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you so much. Yes, come on up.
Hi, I'm Kira Moon. I live at 484 North, 470 East, on the other side of one of these fields. So I was looking there at a master plan that was on the Providence City website, and it shows that, in the parcel map also, if you go a little bit to the west of the Baldwin map, it shows that there is a parcel that belongs to Providence City around 350 North, 300 East. On the master plan that I have access to and emailed to the city, it shows that 350 North ought to connect with 400 East at that. And I think that would be really beneficial for many people. The Knolls, that subdivision would likely connect. So it wouldn't just be the homes in this new subdivision that would go on 400 East. It would be the homes from the Knolls, if they were headed south, would likely go over on 400 East also. And if you could create or have plans for a road on 350 North, that would allow people going on the Knolls to go on a road that could be planned with modern ideas of gutters and sidewalks and wide roads. And so I would recommend that we think seriously about long-term roads that need to be built, and if subdivisions need to have access points to those roads, that way we're not channeling all this traffic on 400 East and 200 North, which are roads that were built before modern ideas of sidewalks and gutters and other things like that. So that is what I would recommend and ask you to recommend too.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other comments for our public meeting? Okay, thank you again so much for participating tonight. I encourage you to continue to stay and see how this all goes. We do have some further agenda items that will involve the roads in this area and the plat map involved, and you're about to hear from the developer. So we encourage your participation. Encourage you to stay. Sorry. Okay, so we will go ahead and end the public comment tonight. Public hearing, excuse me, and we'll move on to our legislative action item. Item number 3 is the rezone request on parcels 02-103-001 and 02-103-002. The Planning Commission will review and discuss and make a recommendation to the City Council regarding an application from Jody Robbins and David Miller on those parcels located in the general area of 411 East, 300 North from Ag to R112. And at this time, I'd like to invite the developer.
I'm Jody Robbins. I'm the developer for that area and the one asking for it to be rezoned. And I agree with a lot of what the residents around the property said, other than I feel like because the entire area is surrounded by the R112 zone, it makes sense for the R112 zone to be approved in that area. And the general plan calls for that to be the R112 zone. What I would ask for the residents or the neighbors that are near here, I too am a neighbor. I live about 1 block away from the development. So through design of the development, we can help to minimize the traffic and encourage the rural feel and the walkability and the bikeability and the pedestrian safety that is so important to them and is so important to me. And that's why I have the next study item, which is the request to amend the general plan. But before I go into detail in that, just looking at the zoning portion of it, with it being the same zone entirely surrounding it, it only makes sense to have that as the R112.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Jody?
I think the last time when we looked at everything, we saw some road options. Is that right, Ryan? That there were some discussion on the road options through the property and things like that?
There is some different options that he's presenting.
Yeah.
But at this point, the master plan would indicate connectivity.
Yeah.
And
We're still at that early stage and
yep,
not required to bring in any plans or show anything at this time.
yeah, tonight I have those and I would love to discuss them further we'll end up having a public hearing about those. That general plan amendment request tonight, it's just a study item, but I would love to go into more detail on how our proposed change to the general plan actually is better for the 6 key initiatives that define the general plan and why that change should be considered based on those initiatives. And a lot of it is the same things that the community was talking about for the rezone. But as the developer, I feel like with the proper zoning, we can still keep the community feel with the proper design.
No, I agree with you. And because that's what we're into. We're in item number 3. We're in the
Yes.
discussion about whether we would recommend or not recommend this going forward to the city council. So maybe just a suggestion from things in the past, and it's not required of you or anything like that, never is, but to maybe have a neighborhood meeting if you progress in some of those things. Depending on the action taken by the city council, you'll move forward. Will or will not, but if you move forward, then you will be coming in with design plans and things like that, and so.
We have that tonight. I was actually planning to reach out to most of the residents that are here prior to the general plan amendment public hearing that will come down the road, so that they knew that they could come and voice their opinions on that, and give their opinions on if that should be a through road or a minor collector or not. So, but with the purely talking about the rezone, it's completely surrounded by the zone we're asking for. So,
No,
there-
I don't have any
yeah.
questions regarding that. I think we're good with that, and then I think when we get to the issue of the roads and things, then there will be a lot of discussion about that, as to see especially how we address their issues and those kind of things. But
Mhm.
I'm fine. I'm good with the rezone request at this time. I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the rezone?
Questions of him?
Yes.
No.
More questions for Scarlett?
No, we're gonna have a discussion at some point though, right?
Sure. We ready for that? Okay. Jody, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure. I've had a hand from the audience. I'm going to go ahead and invite him back to the mic to provide a little more information.
So, thanks again for listening to me. It's not completely surrounded by the zone. There's an ag zone across the street from us that butts up to it on the Hershey's property. So it's not 100%. The Hershey's, I imagine, they were interested in that property at one time. I don't know if they're still interested, but it certainly could be, could remain ag.
And your name for the record
Scott
again?
Booth.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. Okay, we are going to go ahead and discuss this agenda item amongst the commission. Rob, go ahead.
I have just a comment, maybe a recommendation that because the study item is so integral to this whole project, I wonder if we ought to consider waiting to make a decision on this until we have the hearing and have a complete set of comments from the public regarding both the amendment to the general plan and the rezone. Just a thought.
How do we feel about that?
Well, this is a public hearing for the rezone.
Right, but it's a public hearing for the rezone, but we are not addressing with the public the
This
general plan.
was a public hearing. She closed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
right. But we had the opportunity to hear from the public about the rezone, and I think that's the issue that's before us. Is I guess what I'm trying to understand is what additional things would you like to see? Is how it's going to be developed and
Well,
what roads will go through?
integral to this overall plan is whether there's going to be a change to the general plan that would allow for cul-de-sacs in that area rather than a through road, right? And that's what the change the amendment to the general plan is. And if that those, in my mind, those things are very, very much connected. And I would feel better about doing those as a package, having input from the public on both items before we make a decision on either. That's kind of my feeling.
Thank you for that, Bob. We will have a public hearing on the transportation item, the study item.
Correct? Yes, I know.
And tonight, I think what we're addressing here is whether or not we want to rezone or recommend to rezone the property. I think they are two separate issues. Do we want to rezone, and then later we will consider the application for amending the general plan for the transportation?
I'd make a motion that we hold off further action on legislative action, item number 3 on the agenda, and move to number 4 for the study, and then maybe return to number 3 after we do the study.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. Thank you. We have a motion? Okay, and a second from Julie. We will go ahead and
All in-
move on.
Do your vote.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Oh, yes, Tyler, I would like to add to the record that Julie Martin is with us. And right now, she is participating as an alternate member. Oh, good point. Sorry. So do I have a second on the previous motion? Thank you. We have a second from Bob Hankey, and all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? All right, we will move on to item number 4, which is the general plan amendment application. This is a study item where the Planning Commission will study an application filed by Jody Robbins that seeks to amend a part of the general plan. Scarlett, would you like to come up and tell us more about that?
Okay. Their request actually impacts both the general plan and the transportation plan. And I think it's important to note that even if you change the classifications on this, if the developer chose to put a straight road through there, once he decided to, he could. So rezone and transportation plans, they are two separate things, the way Shelley recommended they are. Just because.
Say that again. What the landlord, what's the word I'm thinking of? Developer, there's the word I think.
The developer is proposing that we change the classification of the road. That doesn't mean that the developer couldn't choose to put a straight-through road in if once they got going with their project, it made better sense for the whole area. So if your thought was that you're going to hold them to cul-de-sacs, if that's the way you change the general plan, that's not necessarily what the change will do. That's all I just wanted to say, is that doesn't demand that cul-de-sacs go there. I don't want the public to get that thought that cul-de-sacs have, if you recommend changes, and the city actually did changes and changed the classification of the road, that does change the classification of the road, changes the asphalt width perhaps, doesn't change the right-of-way width, changes the asphalt width and the parking strip width, but it doesn't change anything else. And so whether they do the way it is now, it's shown as a through road for transportation purposes. That's the way that the staff would like to see it. I have to say that straight up. I mean, we paid people a lot of money to tell us that.
In the master plan shows the straight through road right now.
Right.
It also, it shows it in the general plan, which is,
Right.
which is different. One is about the volume of traffic and one is about connectivity of traffic. And on two different levels, this particular road is indicated as a needed road for our transportation and effective connectivity. So one thing I would add is, as we're there, keep in mind if you change one classification, that domino may change another. You may end one collector road and force another to be a major collector, because you'll force that traffic onto somewhere else. But while that traffic may be affected, you will then push that, and it may, I mean, like this one, this potentially could eliminate a minor collector and push Center Street as a major collector, and that's buying huge swaths of right-of-way and widening huge section of road in order to accomplish the same connectivity. I mean, there's, the dominoes are pretty substantial when you change the connectivity of roads, and that could change the response of your fire department, your police department. Those connectivities are critical for our infrastructure in providing safety and security to our residents.
Thank you. Thank you, Scarlett.
So in this, we did look at, so the key issues. The general plan is a document that the city adopts to set forth general guidelines for the proposed future development of the land within the municipality. It's a comprehensive, long-range general plan for present and future needs of the city, and growth and development of all or any part of land within the city. The general plan is an advisory guide for land use decisions. The transportation plan, the transportation master plan, is the adopted vision of the long-term planning of transportation infrastructure projects within the city. It is the roadmap for the next 5 to 30 years and outlines strategic projects and goals for the city to implement and pursue. The transportation master plan was created through a series of steps that included public input, city council interviews, consideration for regional planning, and city staff involvement. Each input is checked against engineering principles and the traffic demand needs using traffic simulation and modeling. The general plan, the current general plan transportation map and figures in the current transportation plan, master plan, propose 400 East as a minor collector from Center Street to Spring Creek Parkway. The applicant is proposing cul-de-sacs be allowed between 300 North and Spring Creek Parkway. Again, we have the visions, the key initiatives, or the vision statement and the key initiatives. In our findings of fact, Utah code requires us to have a general, we look at Utah code 9A401, 9A40, or 10, excuse me, 10 9A401, 10 9A403, 10 6, that should be 9A, I apologize, 10 9A404. And then we look at the general plan itself. We look at Providence City Code 1142 and Providence City Code 1143. And from those, we draw conclusions. Our conclusions, and I will say, the developer did do an eloquent job of making his case with the with using the initiatives in the general plan. So, but I will let him present that part to you. We have an adopted current general, we adopted the current general plan by resolution 004-2020 on January 15th, 2020. The moderate income housing element goals and objectives were amended by resolution 16-2022 on November 16th, 2022. The Planning Commission will review this request to amend the general plan. After reviewing the request, but prior to making a recommendation to the City Council, the Planning Commission will schedule and hold a public hearing. Again, Joe's point earlier comes up, the City Council is the legislative body for Providence City, so you're going to recommend a proposal to them, and then they will make the final decisions. The city uses the objectives and strategies listed in the general plan transportation element to develop the city's transportation plan. And I was part of that, and we did make sure that our engineering firm that came in and did the transportation master plan tied it very closely to our general plan. So they are, one is built upon, the transportation plan was built upon the guidelines in the general plan. And the current transportation plan was adopted by resolution 14-2021 on April 21st, 2021. The transportation plan has a street connectivity infrastructure section that begins on page 9 of the plan. In this section, it states, multimodal city key initiative 4 in the general plan has an objective, promote development patterns that provide connectivity. This initiative specifically focuses on streets accommodating a variety of transportation modes and improving connectivity. Later in this section, it states, new developments and city capital improvement projects should take connectivity into account to link neighborhoods. Cul-de-sacs should be limited, and new development should plan for and provide future connections to adjacent underdeveloped parcels. Efforts should be made to coordinate with city staff in determining where these connections should be made. The Transportation Master Plan also discusses traffic calming types, and that begins on page 10. It states, as concerns are identified, a review of the location can be performed, and an individualized traffic study performed by transportation engineers to determine if and what type of traffic calming measures to implement. In theory, any residential street can apply some type of traffic calming when the 85th percentile vehicle speed exceeds the speed limit by more than 5 miles per hour. Traffic calming options for local and minor collector roadways include lane narrowing and striped bicycle lanes, curb extensions, bulb outs, and visibly enhanced crosswalks, roadway pinch points, I can't say that word. Chicanes, and lane shifts. The Transportation Master Plan in Figure 19 recommends 400 East be extended from 300 North to Spring Creek Parkway as a proposed minor collector. The Transportation Plan also discusses limited access roadways on page 36. This Transportation Corridor Master Plan identifies limited access roadways outlined in Figure 32, and Providence City Code 1143Q indicates access to major commercial or specified streets from a residential unit shall only be allowed where no other option exists. The city code references that major commercial or specified residential streets have an industry standard functional classifications that matching major collectors and minor arterials. That's not what this one is going to be. The Transportation Corridor Master Plan for limited access major commercial and specified residential roadways does not show this section of 400 East as a limited access highway. So the plan itself knows that there's going to be driveways, development along both sides with driveways coming in and out. It doesn't anticipate that it's going to be a major collector. The conditions are prior to making the recommendation to City Council, the Planning Commission must schedule and hold a public hearing. The City Council is the body that will make the final decision on the request, and then again, we have our applicant shall meet all applicable city, state, and federal laws, codes, rules. Approval by the city of any application submitted or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and/or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. And I totally respect the citizens that are here tonight and their positions. I understand them. I can empathize with them, but I want to caution you, just as Ryan said, we've actually made other development plan for the access and plan to make sure that 400 East, as it extends between 200 North and Spring Creek Parkway, we've made other developments in the area accommodate that plan already. So when you start changing the plan, it causes a ripple effect on what we've planned for other developments. Also, I don't know anybody that welcomes more traffic on their street. But if we were to reduce connectivity and with a through street, turn it into 2 cul-de-sacs, we actually increase the traffic because the cul-de-sac has no choice but to constantly use. The south cul-de-sac has no choice but to constantly use 4th East. The north cul-de-sac has no choice but to constantly use Spring Creek Parkway, where if you allow more opportunity, then they will go if the people on the south want to go north, they will go north to Spring Creek Parkway rather than traveling south and down and back around. So when we reduce connectivity, we often create more traffic in areas that didn't anticipate it. And we didn't anticipate it, so we didn't require the roads to anticipate that kind of traffic. So just be very, very cautious when you recommend changes to our master plans and our general plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we
Questions?
have some questions.
Yeah, I've got a question. You said something about once once we've changed the zoning, okay, then the developer can do whatever he wants with the road? Is that what
No,
you
he
said?
can't do,
change the recommendation for the master plan and the road plan. Try talking to the mics. I think we've got that issue solved, so it's really
Okay.
quiet online.
So, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So my question, you said something that made me think that after anything is approved, then the developer can choose to make it go straight through or to do cul-de-sacs on his own. Is that
Not-
true?
if you change it to allow that he has the option to do cul-de-sacs, then he can do cul-de-sacs, but he doesn't have to do cul-de-sacs.
Okay, so that's totally dependent upon the change to the general plan
You're only changing the classification of the road.
classification.
That's what he's asking you to
is
change,
that-
is the classification of the road.
That's the change to the general plan is the classification of the road.
Now,
That-
to
that-
clarify though, if it's on a general plan, the general plan doesn't have, it is a classification. The master plan has the classification. So the general plan says the connectivity.
Yes.
So at that point, if you take these, and this is a kind of a complicated one because it can affect both the general and the master plan. But if you just approve, or if you just recommend the change from a minor collector to remove the minor collector status, the general plan will still dictate to have a through street. Because that's still connectivity. So then you'd have to change both the master plan, you recommend changing the master plan and the general plan, and then recommend, if you're going to go to that point, you're going to recommend to remove that road connection off. To get all the way to his hope and desire, you would have to change both the classification of the road and the connectivity of the road, and change both of those plans and domino that back in order for him to eliminate the connectivity that has been integral in both of these plans.
And which has also already been implemented in a sense of surrounding areas with the understanding that that would be a minor collector.
So pieces of that infrastructure that already been built
Right.
has been built, like 400 East is built to build up to that minor collector status. Yes, realizing that the sidewalk and some of those things, but the road width has started,
Yeah.
that domino has started to work down there. And not that that means it changes tomorrow. Lots of things move very slow in this process. And so at that point, but those dominoes have already started to lay out, as well as the dominoes on the north laying out what they're being asked to do so that it comes to this point.
Thank you.
Can I also ask about, is there connectivity planned for 300 North? Right now, it crosses Sarah Street and it ends in a T. And this development would run into 300 North.
300 north going east and west?
Yes.
Yes.
What was,
I believe that Hollows has, I'd have to look at the way the Hollows is laid out, but I believe they come down to 300 north.
Okay.
300 north?
no,
No, it's set in them. That's not set in the connection. There is a
Not in the
general road.
general plan,
Oh, in their
in their development
development
plan.
plan. Yeah, that could be.
The Knolls, I'm sorry, I said the Hollows, I think the Knolls. I would have to look at their plan. But I think they are planning to connect to 300 north.
Okay.
You're talking up here then, farther
East.
East.
east,
Yeah.
but not to Third East. You're talking towards the east from the development that way.
To Sarah Street.
Scarlett, can I ask you just for clarification? I think it kind of goes with Bob Hinkey's and Bob Washburn's question, and just so I get up to speed with them, that I understand. You were saying that even if we
If you just remove this road,
we remove the current status of it as a minor collector road, the developer could do his cul-de-sacs, or he could put the road through. That's
if you
where we
took
said
the
he
road,
could do.
if you took that section road out of the general plan and just left it, because we don't general plan all of our residential streets.
Right.
And so if you take that out of the general plan and you just leave it as a residential street, then he has his options of how he would like to design it.
But from our standpoint, from the city standpoint, and everything that has been done in the past with the plans and all that stuff has been done, and with this road design, that it would have this designation, or it has this designation because of all the planning and everything that's been done.
Right.
And I have a question, Jody, if I can ask you real quick. Your
You're
intent,
talking to a mic. You may want to sit at the chair there.
your intent is splitting up the traffic flow? If you do the two cul-de-sacs basically, or, from that standpoint, that it doesn't go all the way through, that half of the people will go out this way and half the people will go out the south way?
That's exactly correct. And it's less people to the south. It's about 14 lots that would go to the south and roughly 20 lots that would go to the north. And I can elaborate further on with specific figures on the other changes.
So
No,
to
that's
clarify on the general plan
Yeah.
then, you would see where the general plan, the transportation plan goes to like Second North, and the transportation plan goes to Spring Creek Parkway.
Right.
But then that road in the middle would be removed and treated as just a residential road. And when we don't show them on the general plan, then the developer and the staff sits down and tries to work things out to accommodate both the city's needs and the development's needs.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate it. I was looking to see the reasoning there. I see the reasoning from the city and a lot of the planning that's been involved in over the years to prepare for the growth and that type of stuff that road needs to go through. So that takes care of me.
I do have one more question. The code says that a cul-de-sac can be 600 feet. Can you help me understand? I mean, Fourth East is a single ingress. And if it doesn't go all the way through, there is no other way to get in and out of that area.
Well, Third
Correct.
North. Where are you thinking?
It was not.
Well, no,
built.
I'm looking at this.
If you were to take the current completed road and build a cul-de-sac from there, the question I'm guessing is are you going to exceed your depth?
600 feet.
Before you have an extra second access built?
You've got, I mean, my understanding is that the cul-de-sac 600 feet idea is that you don't get so many people having only one egress,
Correct.
correct? And it's 600 feet to Third North from going north from Second North, which is where you have two directions you can go. It's 600 feet up to the beginning of what this development is. And so beyond that, we're proposing putting a bunch of houses with only one egress on Fourth East, which if I lived in there, I sure as heck wouldn't want to have only one way out of there. And so I just want to clarify the 600 feet. What exactly does that mean? Where does that 600 feet start?
The 600 feet, okay, so Jody's even showing that at some point 300 north will go east up into the Providence homes on the knoll, the homes on the knoll.
Okay, where does that,
So
where does that exit?
So it's, as long as that doesn't end in a cul-de-sac right there, as long as that street goes up through and connects with another street that's gonna go another direction, or they can get to a different street, the 600 feet will start at 300 north.
But if that 300 north, if for instance on the map here, if that cul-de-sac ends and either that 300 north connects onto the north side or the south side, it will create the other side of that having a
other side will be
600-foot
too long.
problem. It will create a 600-foot problem if that doesn't connect, because he can't connect to both sides of the cul-de-sac. So if he doesn't connect to both sides of the cul-de-sac, then one side will violate the 600 rule. That's correct.
But going to Third East doesn't empty out anywhere, does it?
Third east,
I'm sorry, Third North.
Third north.
Third North
no.
doesn't empty
Third
out. If you
north
go
ends,
east,
ends at second north. That's its second one. So from second north, it's a single axis all up. And then if he goes up, then you're, yeah, I mean, at that point, you're already over your 600 here.
Third
north.
North doesn't
The current,
empty into any place that you can egress to,
correct.
Until,
right?
until
Until,
Homes
he
on the
builds-
Knoll builds 300 north.
and where does it connect to someplace else?
Sarah Street, I think it is.
Is Sarah Street,
Sarah Street.
But if it, yeah, if it's
there is no
connected on
road
Sarah
on Sarah
Street,
Street.
but unless 300 north connects over, but 300 north can't connect to the north side too. Can't connect to both. That's one of the problems.
You
Are
can't
not-
get from Center Street to Spring Creek on Sarah Street.
Not at this time.
And-
Design wise, you're supposed to eventually, but
Well,
not,
but-
but
but
this is the first development.
You gotta, somebody's gotta sell some property, and my understanding in talking to them is that they want to do an easement to,
Conservation.
a conservation easement and never have it developed. So that tells me that it could be a long time before you drive from on Sarah Street from Center Street to Spring Creek or anywhere else. I mean, I'm just saying that there's one egress, and we're putting a bunch more houses in there.
Yeah.
And it's
If you measure from Spring Creek down to Third North, it's 1,000 feet. So you can't have a cul-de-sac ending there. That's what you're saying.
right,
And
exactly.
you can't take from Fourth North and come up and over and up to Third North is 1,200. So either direction, you can't have an end cul-de-sac on
Right.
either direction
Right.
because of yeah, that's true.
Safety.
So that, I mean, I just wanted to clarify that because it's an important thing. Egress is really, I mean, that's a huge safety thing. in my
But
mind.
that's where you would measure, if Third North goes east and connects up so that it can connect with Sarah Street, then that's where you would measure your 600 feet from,
Right,
is
but
from
it
Third North.
can't do that.
Yeah,
Right
you
now.
can measure it, but it won't meet the 600 feet. But you can measure from that point. That's what she's saying. From
Right.
that point, that's where you can measure from. But it won't measure less than the 600 feet. That's correct.
But there is no way to connect 300 north to Sarah Street
Yes,
at
there
this
is.
point.
Well,
Well,
not-
if,
depends how quick Danny McFarland develops his property.
okay,
But this development can't count on that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, is there's no street. There's no connection there. There's no,
there's a future design street, but if he were to come and do the same thing that Jody's proposing, then there wouldn't be.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to get the 600 feet kind of straight in my mind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have any more questions for Scarlett or Ryan?
I have one question, just if you
Just
can,
talking to the mic, you're a little
if
quiet.
you can help me, okay? I've never been told I'm quiet before. Anyway, to address some of the concerns that people in the audience have, that are for the public hearing meeting, they're south of the property. If we move forward, we stick with the master plan, transportation plan, all of those, the road goes through for this development. The requirements that would be for that road, would it have the curb gutter and sidewalks, things like
For
that?
his development, it would require all of the current standards,
Okay.
curb, gutter, sidewalk. So from his development, connecting in,
Right,
to what we would believe is 470, but he could come to 400. Either one of those
right,
would fit within the design. But 300 north and 400 east, at that point, those aren't inside of his development.
right,
Well, the 300 north is part of the that would be part, so he would be required on the 300 north side, his side of that, to finish that
Finish that.
side with the sidewalk, with the width. So he'd finish the north side. We do have some water line issue, and 400 east and 300 north. So we would have him finish his side, city would
Okay.
come back, replace the water line when it connects, and do the road at that time. But he would finish his partial road cross section on the north side of 300 north.
so what would the timing be, or what would be on 400 East South, where these neighbors exist now? So we'd have this smaller road, without curb gutter and sidewalk coming up, and then as it enters into his development, then everything is finished out, it's done great, looks great, and goes on. But we've got traffic going through as all those homes get built, but the south part there. So what would be when would that road improvement happen on the, south of the 300 north, on 400 east?
I couldn't tell you at this time.
Okay,
Sorry.
so it's something
It's a
that,
hypothetical that's beyond
yeah,
beyond the idea of hypothetical that I can answer.
I believe he's pleading the fifth.
well, that's,
Well,
because
I
that's
mean, we
part
have
of what
other
they're-
sections that
Right.
we're in discussion with, and sometimes it takes time between property owners. And I mean, if
Sure.
you've looked and watched our council meetings, I think you could pretty well read between some lines that it takes some time for us to develop certain based on different things. And even whether we had the money tomorrow,
Right.
it may take us time to develop. And some of those on there, if they are, so for instance, the two properties on this side, on the west side, if they were to develop before the city got there, then we would require them to put that infrastructure in.
right,
The east side, we could theoretically do much quicker. For the west side where it's undeveloped, that we would hope the developer would take care of that if that came. If we came and prioritized it sooner, then we would take care of it. But development sometimes beats us, and it may very well be the case. I don't know if somebody owns that piece, but anyway, if that happens, they may beat us to that. We don't know what the next development is. We have this one in front of us, and we're happy about that, and
Right.
whatever he can do. But at this point, we can see connectivity, and I don't know how to answer when that road would come. But it would definitely be higher prioritized to get it accomplished when it's a connection road and underserved. As it is right now, it's a dead-end street, and so it's
Right.
not
not as high a
it's not
priority
prioritized
as it
that way.
might become with that
Right,
development.
that's why our development, or our improvement went to Second North, because that ends
Right.
the dead end.
Okay, thank you, Ryan and Scarlett. Jody, thank you as well, so.
Yes, thank you. Do we have any more questions for the developer or?
I just want to clarify, because we're talking about the general plan Fourth East is supposed to go straight through. But what we're looking at in the drawings is 470 East, not Fourth East. So we're talking about, we're not even talking about Fourth East.
What we are, actually. If you look at the general plan versus the master plan, two different documents here. This one.
Would you zoom into that just a little bit on the general plan? Can you zoom into that top corner where we're looking?
Yep, but you'll notice that this one does come to 470. It connects to that road and not over to here to 450. So it's like in
400.
400, right? It does
Okay,
connect to 470.
okay.
So yes, the general plan does connect there, absolutely. But you're right, there is a slight
So then-
options that you could, as a total engineering option, if we could match 400 Easts, you know, that would be fine. But you'll notice it's slight either direction of that. But the master plan, the general plan right here is clear that it is intending that.
All right.
So either one of those
Okay.
fulfills
So
that.
then, one other question that I have, and I see what you're saying, and for Jody, obviously, connecting, if it goes through, connecting to 470 is much better use of your land, without a doubt. What happens to the two lots? I'm looking at the drawing that either one of those where you have the cul-de-sacs. What happens to those two lots just south of 400, the cul-de-sac and 400 East? How do they get access to those lots in the future?
Show me which lots you're talking about.
I'm not positive which ones you're talking about.
So the cul-de-sac on 400 East that's currently there. I'm looking at your drawings that you have of the last two drawings in the, yes. So right where your thumb is, there's two lots right there. Those two lots, yeah. I'm just wondering what's the access to get to those lots eventually if somebody says, you know, I can.
There's a road that comes up from 300 East or a right-of-way up future.
I just wonder how that impacts the person who owns that land. I'm just curious.
The Olsons are selling their land right now, and they anticipate a road coming up
Okay.
into that area right there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just was curious
Right,
about those
yeah.
things.
Yeah, that's a great question. All right, Joe, you've been quiet over there. Do you have any questions, concerns, comments, jokes?
No, I think the next thing we do is set a public hearing, but I know Jody
Can-
wants to talk about his points,
Okay.
but
I would love to have an opportunity to talk.
Real quick before you start, I do want to just remind everybody, similar to a zoning change or request, sometimes we get plans. Those plans are not guaranteed. Those plans won't happen. So, or not that they won't happen, but we're not set on that. So similar to that, this plan is not a guarantee. It's an idea, it's an option, but like Scarlett said, it's not a guarantee. So what we're really looking at is, do we want to change the status of the road?
and Jody, I'm not trying to cut you off, but really this sales pitch, so to speak, should be done at the public meeting, in my opinion. But if you want to
Yeah.
talk, it's the chairman's meeting, chairwoman.
Yeah, I mean, it's a study item today. I think we can study it out. So let's hear what you have to say, and we may have you do it again at the public hearing.
Perfect. Yeah, and I want you guys to have as much information so you can study, so you know exactly what I'm going to be saying at the public hearing. But as a developer, I've always tried to balance it's almost like a puzzle where you buy land and then you get a puzzle piece of the community input, the city code, the state code, the fire requirements, the physical characteristics of the land, and you kind of fit that together to create the best possible development for the area. And in this one specifically, it's been a lot more difficult, or there's the extra step of needing to ask the city to adjust because of input that I've received from the community and the community members around that. And I told those community members that I would explore the option to not have that as a connecting road because I live in the community. I want to be a good community member and a developer. So the reason I'm here and asking is I feel like it would make a better development that would fit the sense of place or the sense of community that Providence City has if we're able to make those adjustments. There are very valid reasons for not making the adjustments that have been brought up. One of those, the 600-foot cul-de-sac, the main, when you talk about egress and emergency egress, the fire code kind of reigns supreme on that. And they allow 30 structures on a one-way access. And even while we're waiting for 300 North to connect into Sarah Street, where we would have the connectivity and then we would have a legitimate 600-foot cul-de-sac, we're only going to have 21 lots along that longer than normal cul-de-sac, which is 2/3 what the fire code requires. So I just wanted to address that real quick. But in looking at this, and the reason I'm requesting it, like I said, is community driven, but looking at the general plan, there's the 6 initiatives that kind of dictate what they're trying to accomplish with the general plan. And I'll kind of do an abridged version, but with the sense of place, we feel like the cul-de-sacs, and you heard a small example of the community members and their feelings tonight, that they want it to feel more rural. They want more green space. They want it to be more walkable. The general plan wants Providence to be more walkable and more bikeable. And by doing cul-de-sacs that are connected with a 20-foot right-of-way for pedestrian traffic, that gives that encourages the walkability and the bikeability while still allowing cars to pull in and pull into their garage and still travel around the community. But the cul-de-sac designs with the narrower roads make it so you don't get as much traffic that's speeding. You still do, but you don't get a long straightaway where people can get up to 35 or 40 when kids are running out behind parked cars into the road. With the cul-de-sac, the roads can be narrower, and it's less comfortable to drive fast. So not only is it more walkable, but it's safer for the families, it's safer for the existing residents. Looking at the green infrastructure, green infrastructure is the second initiative of the 6 key initiatives. If we're able to do the cul-de-sac plan, we actually lose a lot, which for a lot of people, I think it would be weird for them to hear a developer saying, I want to do the plan that loses how many, or that has less lots available. But we also lose a ton of asphalt and hard surfaces. So we end up with about 23,000 square feet of extra green space by going with the cul-de-sac plan, which the sense of place in the community in Providence, green space is important. So we want to keep as much of that as possible. Fiscal responsibility is the third initiative. With less asphalt that we turn over to the city, that's less that they have to maintain, less that they have to snow plow, less that they need to chip and seal every so many years. So it's less of a burden on the city going forward. Looking at the initiative 4 being a multimodal city, a big part of that is the pedestrian safety that I talked about before, and allowing the walkability and bikeability. but if you look at the general plan, this proposed minor collector is unique from all the other proposed minor collectors in that it's a 6-block long minor collector that dead ends 1 block to the north of this development and 3 blocks to the south, and they're never going to connect because the city has their city sheds and the park over on Center Street, and to the north there's already houses at the end of that cul-de-sac, and it's already a cul-de-sac. So, and that cul-de-sac isn't even part of the minor collector status. So this is a 4-block long minor collector. We have another minor collector 1 block away to the east and a major collector 1 block away to the west that are going in the same direction. So this one, if you look at the general layout of the collectors, minor and major, in Providence and especially up in that area, they're typically about 2 blocks away. This one has 1 on either side of it, a block either way. I say a block because we're connecting at 470 on the one side. Sarah Street's about a block from 470, and 300 East is 1 block from 400 East on the west side. Going into economic development, the economic development, we will likely have slightly bigger lots, as I mentioned before, and more green space, which allows for slightly bigger houses, which is more tax revenue for the city. The various housing opportunities, if you look at our the minor collector plan, the lots are very homogeneous. It's going to be very similar lots through that entire thing, all about the same size. If we are able to have the status of that road changed and able to do the cul-de-sacs, we actually end up with a much greater variety of lot sizes and lot characteristics. Yes, they're all on the higher end, but it's a much greater variety of lot characteristics. So those are kind of the 6 initiatives, and I've laid out the reasons why making the change supports those initiatives. But there are, as Scarlett mentioned, there are also reasons, and I fully understand why the city would like to keep that as a through street and planned it as a through street from the beginning. But with the information that I've gotten from the community, I felt like it was my responsibility as a responsible developer to at least ask the city if we could do something closer to what the community members are wanting to see in that area. So
I find that very commendable that you're taking feedback and you're doing what you can to try to accomplish that. That's wonderful. Thank you. Do we have any more questions while we move on from this, or while we move toward the end of this study item?
I don't have any others.
Okay. So we will move back to item number 3.
Well, let's finish up if you don't mind. I'd like to make a motion to move this item on to the public hearing and get that moving and set. So I'd make a motion to have a public hearing set.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I think that was Kira's email.
Oh, yes, did you wanna, I mean, you made your,
yeah.
you're good.
Everything,
You said,
as long as everyone has access to what I said.
on the copy, yeah, sure.
The one email that we
Okay.
got dealt with the roads, and Kara did an excellent job, but she had already sent us an email too. So I just wanted to make sure that she felt like her points were covered.
Wonderful. We'll include that. We'll include that email. Okay, motion carries, and we will move item number 4 to a hearing. So we will move back to item number 3, the rezone request for parcel 02-103-001 and 02-103-002. I'll just open it up for discussion amongst the commission. How are we feeling, guys?
I've got some questions. If we were to approve or recommend approval to the city council, are we able to put some conditions on that, Fourth East be prioritized to match the type of road that's going into that development and take care of the needs of the citizens who live on Fourth East right now? I think they have some really valid points, some things that are a big concern, and that's not part of the development, but I'd like to, if they're gonna approve, if the city council is going to approve it, I would like to have some conditions or recommend that they prioritize Fourth East as getting it finished in the way it needs to be. And that's one of my concerns. I don't think, personally, I'm concerned about the timing of doing this right now. But that's my
Just in the regard of the Fourth East.
right. That's
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I think we can recommend with our recommendation.
Just to clarify, that wouldn't be a condition of the developer.
no. That's just with, if we're gonna recommend that we go ahead and change the zoning, we also recommend that the city prioritize taking care of Fourth East with curb and gutter and a wide road that's equivalent to what we're expecting on that's
So you can't have your cake and eat it too, keep
Please.
in mind. But if it's a cul-de-sac and it stays a cul-de-sac, it will still be prioritized.
What we're
You actually
discussing-
can have your cake and eat it too. You can't eat your cake and have it too, Ryan, just so you know.
There you go.
I have smart aleck kids.
I-
They teach me these things.
I give on that point. You can't eat your cake and then have it too. But if you rezone it and then you approve it to still be a cul-de-sac, it will still be prioritized the same as a cul-de-sac, right? If it's approved and then it gets built as a minor collector road, it will naturally, without anything from your body, it will naturally elevate because that's how the prioritization works.
Okay, well, I think that answers my question, but
So you can put it in, but if you put it in, the only way it prioritizes is differently is if it's a through street and once it's a through street, then it becomes a pinch point and it becomes a prioritization by the nature of it.
which is, right, but they're two separate issues, and that's why I wanted to kind of do them in one, because they are tied together, but thank you. That answers my question. So it's automatic. Becomes a priority.
Madam Chair, if there's no further discussion, then I would make a recommendation unless there's more discussion requested.
What's your recommendation?
I would make a recommendation,
A motion?
make a motion, excuse me, yes, to recommend to the city council that we approve the rezone to R112 of the parcel 02-103-001 and 02-103-002, located in the general area of the 411 East, 300 North from agricultural to R112, with its findings of facts, conclusions, and conditions.
Thank you, Michael. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And I have a second from Bob Hankey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
And let me just put for the record, when the public comes out like this and expresses their feelings on it, I have a concern. The city council should know that people showed up for the meeting, took the time and effort. And this isn't anything against your development or Jody. It's just respecting their viewpoints. I think the city council ought to know that. And you passed anyway. It only takes 3 votes. But that's the reason I voted nay, and I just would like it on the record.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Ty, did you get all that? Would you like me to clarify? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you all for coming tonight. You're welcome to stay and you're welcome to come back. Remember that this does go to City Council, and we will have another public next meeting on the road issue. We will move on to item number 5, the Rinderknecht rezone application. The Planning Commission will study a rezone application from Kent Dunkley that seeks to rezone parcels 02-088-0015 and 02-090-0001 from agricultural to highway commercial, and parcel 02-088-0010 from agricultural to RM18, previously known as multifamily high. Thank you.
Oh, is this different? This is different.
Thank you.
Is this an updated analysis?
So the analysis wasn't attached to the agenda, that's why it's being passed out.
Ah, I see, okay.
And I did email Ryan a copy. I also got a late addition from the developer showing a more clear picture of the actual proposed zone change. And it's in that same email, if Ryan wants to bring it up.
Got them up. You got them up?
It's fuzzy.
So, just to clarify, on the general plan amendment, I need to verify to see if that falls in with the 12-day public hearing, or if it requires more time.
Oh, okay.
So it may not
be at our
that-
next
yeah,
meeting.
if we meet in 2 weeks, it may not be on there.
Okay.
It may be part of the 30-day. I'll look. I've been trying to find it, but just so you're aware, it's on the record that it may not be next time, but
It'll be coming up.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. In just one moment here, we'll invite Scarlett to give us a staff report.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, I'm gonna stand right here this time because my standing is about reached its limit.
I just give you a clip-on mic.
Not a microphone hasn't programmed yet, but we're getting stuff.
Great.
Just get your chair.
So I apologize that this wasn't in the report. When I pulled the stuff over, I didn't realize this didn't go with it. Again, the 3 parcels combined, in the summary of the key issues, the 3 parcels combined are 17.46 acres plus or minus. The applicant is requesting 10.04 acres plus or minus be zoned commercial highway district, CHD.
Oh, yep, just crack it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Parcel, let's see. And 7.42 acres plus or minus be zoned RM18, which is residential, multifamily, 18 units per acre, maximum of 18 units per acre. Parcels 02-088 and 0015 and 02-90001 have frontage along Highway 165. Parcel number 02-088-0010 is on the west side of parcels 02-088-0015 and 02-090-001. And you can see that in the illustration that Ryan's got. The 165 is on the right-hand side of the red parcel. So you can see the red parcel has frontage, the purple parcel does not have frontage along 165. However, the development design will have to be designed when that time comes so that that parcel can interconnect and they don't have to go out and around and all types of things. The intent of the the west property line borders Logan City boundary line and is adjacent to the Black Hawk PUD in Logan City. The Black Hawk PUD is zoned MR12, which is mixed residential low. And I don't know if that's 12 units per acre or just, I don't know what their density is. The intent of the commercial highway district is to provide for retail uses in 88% of the combined square footage of the buildings in the development must generate sales tax. So we do allow for a few banks and or an office or two in the commercial highway district because we know that they actually help support those retail producing businesses. But 88% needs to produce sales tax. The intent of the RM18 district is to provide for single-family attached and multifamily dwellings with no more than 18 units per acre. A net acre equals the gross acreage less the infrastructure, which includes right-of-way. And it also doesn't include a public district or a recreation district within the development. But neither of those, that area does not have either a public district or a recreation district. So we would just be reducing the infrastructure. Land encompassed by non-developable sensitive areas must also be subtracted from the gross acreage. And the reason why it's kind of important to let people know, a lot of times people will say, oh, there's 7 acres, they get 18 units per acre, and they go 7 times 18, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of units in a very small area. But really, there's not 7 acres there. There's not 7 net acres. There's 7.42 gross acres, but when you subtract out for the ingress and egress and things like that, it reduces their development acreage. So that's what we're looking at, is the net acreage. And then the developer provided the following statement. The purpose of this rezone request is to rezone 3 parcels owned by the Interconnect family. The frontage properties 02088, 0015, and 02090, 001 to highway commercial. The 2 parcels front Highway 165. The third parcel 02088, 0010 to be changed from agriculture to multifamily high to allow construction of townhomes to be sold. The west parcel is adjacent to Black Hawk condominiums. Again, we look at the general plan. The vision and the key initiatives are listed in the staff report. The Providence City 2020 moderate income housing is also reviewed in the staff report, is also listed. One of the objectives and strategies that we have in that plan, it's actually the first objective. It's modify existing regulatory measures to encourage the development of affordable housing. And the strategy is rezone for densities necessary to facilitate the production of moderate income housing. I don't know what the price of the units will be. All we can do is change the zone to allow for more than 1 or 2 units per acre. And then the way they're developed and the market is going to impact those prices. But RM18 is could certainly be developed at more affordable cost than R112 say, but that doesn't mean that the developer could not come in and build very exclusive looking townhomes So there's no guarantee about whether it will actually meet the affordable income level. But we are doing our part as a city to help encourage
Michael, will you
that.
just leave that a crack so that we're not in a closed meeting? Thank you.
And then, on the findings of fact, we look at 109A501, Utah Code 109A501, 109A505, 109A302, Providence City Code 1041, and Providence City Code 1015. And we also look at the general plan, the transportation plan, and all of our master plans. The current development and we consider the current development and anticipated development immediately surrounding the area. And then it summarizes what each one of our plans are. The summary is the same. Commercial does pay impact fees. Commercial does not pay park impact fees, and they pay a reduced transportation fee, impact fee, but they do pay impact fees. Residential, of course, multifamily is adjusted per unit, so they pay just a little bit less as far as the park impact fees. But the transportation fees and the water, the water is based on the size of meter that serves that multifamily community. So they're not individually metered from the city. The developer provides purchases a large, like a 4-inch meter, depending on the number of units. And then from there, they can contact somebody like Next Meters, and they can individually meter the units, but we do not. We only meter to the development on that. And so the impact fees are significantly higher for a larger meter than a standard house meter, probably a little less though when you divide it by the number of units. So, and then the sewer though, that is per unit, and it's based on the gallons per day that they have to estimate. And so they pay their impact fees proportionately, just like any other house, whether it's an apartment unit or a house. They may not be the exact same fee, but they are paying the proportionate share that our impact fee study has said they should. Providence City Code 10.5 and lists the sensitive areas, and then 10.6.1 and 10.8.1, they list the zones and the regulations, and they are attached in this report. So our conclusion, the city has been divided into zoning districts. The council is the legislative body for the city. The planning commission will review this request to change the zone designations. After reviewing their request, but prior to making a recommendation to the city council, the planning commission will schedule and hold a public hearing. The city's zoning districts include RM18 and the CHD districts. The application process is consistent with the requirements in Providence City Code 10.1.5 to change a zone. The request promotes the General Plan Key Initiative 5 for economic development and 6, various housing opportunities. The request reflects the strategic land use planning by situating commercial enterprises along a major highway while reserving the west side for residential development. This approach has potential to maximize land use efficiently and meet the city's future growth. The general plan shows this area as a city core on the framework map, and it's also shown as a mixed-use node. And it talks a little bit in the staff report about what those are. It also talks about the moderate housing objective 1 that we talked about. It's crucial to recognize that while cities can implement moderate income housing strategies to mitigate housing costs, the broader housing market dynamics ultimately drive home the prices. And then it reviews how the parks, open space, This area, the analysis shows the following parks are within 1 mile. Zollinger Park, which is the service area for a regional park, but then Alma Lenhart and Uptown Parks, they're neighborhood parks. So it's a little farther than their service area, but it's still within 1 mile. And Cattle Corral and Meadow Ridge, it's further than their service area, but they are still both within 1 mile. There's also 2 Logan City parks, Gateway Park and 1700 South Park, that are very close to this area. A note is that in our single-family attached and multifamily residential development, it's a requirement to provide open space equal to or greater than 25% of the overall project area, and a child's play area is also required. So multifamily will be required to put in, it may not be very big park, but they will be required to put in a child's play area park. And then, as in the other plans, the transportation proposes the extension of 100 South as a local road in this area. Which means that once it doesn't show it coming across the highway. It shows 100 South going to the highway. We're planning for an access direct, and UDOT is planning that too, for access directly across from 100 South to west in there. But how that develops, whether it's private road through parking lots, kind of like behind Olive Garden from, what is that, 1250 North to 10th North, how you can kind of drive through the parking lots rather than out on the highway, or whether it's an actual frontage road that they put in, that will work those kind of things out with the development. But there will have to be interconnectivity throughout the development. And then on the other master plans, they're taken care of. The developer will be required to do a water requirement, just like the previous rezone that we talked about. And then we will collect the impact fees to meet the requirements of the other plans. The lands within the potentially developable sensitive areas may be built upon subject to the requirements of this section and other applicable city, state, and federal laws, and may be considered for development density at the discretion of the Planning Commission. So they do have some, and then it shows that a portion of the lot has some wetlands in it. And there is, or excuse me, a portion of the parcels have some wetlands in it, have some open water, and does have irrigation lines that the developer will have to look at as far as designing his development and meeting those needs. City Council is the body that will make the final decision. Prior to making the recommendation, the Planning Commission must schedule and hold a public hearing, and then again, the applicant shall meet all applicable state, city, federal laws, codes, rules. Approval by the city of any application submitted or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and/or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to the local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. So,
Big deep breath.
yeah.
Scarlett, thank you so much for these detailed reports. You do an excellent job.
Yeah, and they are awfully repetitive, but, and I feel bad. I mean, I know it's great information and the public probably thinks, gosh darn, she wastes a lot of time. But if anybody challenges us, then to have this kind of documentation really helps us if we have to defend our position, that we presented the facts to the people. Because, you know, sometimes people don't hear them. And so that's part, I mean, the staff report is definitely to inform you and to help you. Hopefully it is. But it's also a safeguard for the city, that we're doing things the way we should.
Wonderful. It checks both boxes. Yeah, Bob.
Can you help me with units per net acre? with regards to the wetlands here, that's part of the acreage, the
Mhm.
overall acreage, but does
That's subtracted out.
that's subtracted out when you do the net acreage? So,
Mhm.
okay, good, thank you.
Some things don't have to be subtracted out, but wetlands is one of the three that do.
Okay,
So
thank you.
they can use it as part of their landscaping and stuff, but as far as using it towards the density, that portion is subtracted out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Scarlett? All right, I will invite Mr. Dunkley.
You should get this moved to the front of the agenda.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Scarlett. If you would have made just 2 more comments, then I wouldn't have to be up here. But I'm not in a hurry. I don't have anything going on tonight, so I can stay as long as you'd like to stay tonight.
Not what we want to hear.
What is, Scarlett, that was great, really. What is driving this is, and you've seen the maps that we just barely got before this meeting, and Ryan was gracious enough to have them on the screen, is that, does anyone remember a month or so ago, we were looking at a 2.5 acre parcel down here by Fox Hollow and Judges? Yep. We couldn't get a certain restaurant on that piece there, but they've moved over to the smaller piece here. It's a 2.5 acre parcel. So they would like to go there. We have a letter of intent from them. We also have an offer from someone else that would like to buy and rezone and buy the multifamily high parcel that we're proposing. And it's the same individual from the Fox Hollow townhomes in Providence. So if you see that project, you know what kind of project they put together, and that's what would be the same owner here. Also, I'd like to add that in the plan for the 2.5 acre parcel, they are proposing two pads that would be commercial pads on next to 300 South, and they're also going to implement or design 31 parking spaces for the existing Fox Hollow project, so that each townhome over there will now have 3 parking spaces, the 2 garages and 1 other one. I thought that would be interesting to you.
Yeah.
People don't usually do that. So that's the kind of developer that we're working with here. So Scarlett had mentioned affordable housing. We don't know what the price is going to be, and this project is probably 3 years out before the multifamily. The restaurant probably within the year. And for reasons during the last conversation, I think I'm glad to follow them because we talked about transportation and so much housing being created in one area. This is one of those situations with the multifamily that it's out there. And I think we all kind of like that it's out there. It's not in our backyard. I can relate to that where I live. And so it's over there. It's adjacent not to a well, it is a residential community, but a high-density residential community. And so we don't feel like that's necessarily a bad thing. Providence will change, it will grow, but it leaves from the highway going west, it's about 460 feet deep of highway commercial property. The depth would be 460 feet off the highway. When Michael Taylor drew this for me and we were talking about that, he said, seriously, are you going 460 feet deep? Why don't I just make it something less than that, like 250 feet or something? We're not doing that. The whole parcel that exists now that's agricultural, we're asking to be changed to highway commercial. So.
Can I just make a comment on that one real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about what Preston's has and some other things, but to talk about that 460, that's an important number. If you'll remember, when Champlin came in to rezone the piece there, that is about 440. This would be just a little bit wider than that section. And as we measured, that would be what would be needed. So at this point, the same, having the housing be a transition becomes the same thing up here. I just have had some questions of, well, why did you not recommend down here, and what is the difference up here? But that is that 460, that amount of space is really what is needed for development. So I commend them in that manner, but just to kind of give you that comparison, that is kind of the same spacing. They're just slightly more than what the Champlin currently has, so that when you shrink that one, it would have eliminated the ability to put these kind of stores on it. So anyway, appreciate that comparison anyway.
We didn't know that. Again, that's one thing we didn't know, but Michael
here to
suggested
fill it
something
in.
narrower, and we said, no, let's keep it because it needs to be highway commercial, we felt. So I don't know that I have anything else, unless someone has a question.
No, I think it's the same situation where we need to have a public hearing before we can really do anything, so. But I don't want to cut off any discussion that anybody else has.
No, I think it all looks good.
I think it checks all the boxes, and I make a motion that we move it to a public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I need to
Mr. Dunford?
bring one thing up with you. And I don't know that I have to do this on the public record, but I've got a 10-day trial that starts August 26th. Goes 4 days that week, or 3 days that week, 4 days right after the Labor Day, and then 3 weeks. And so anything, I'm going to have to ask to be excused for any meetings in that period.
So what I hear is you want us to come to your trial, join you.
Will there be lunch?
It's in Preston. The judge has asked for 150 jurors.
Taking a field trip.
Yeah, because they figure everybody knows everybody up there, and they'll be off the jury pretty fast.
Wow.
So anyway, no, I'm not asking you to come to the trial. I'm just saying I won't be available for those 3 weeks and would like to be excused. There's a bylaw, just so you guys know, there's a bylaw that says if you don't get excused and you miss so many meetings,
Yeah.
you lose your position. Maybe that's a good way to go, maybe it's not.
Well, I think you can be excused. We'll surely miss you.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have, that ends our agenda items.
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair? Ty, does that give us enough time for between now and our next meeting, the 2 weeks? So it's.
Yeah, I could post it tomorrow. A-frames are iffy because that just depends on walk-in.
Yeah.
That may not be till next week. I can get it on our website, the state public website, post it around town tomorrow if you guys want it in 2 weeks.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we're ready for it.
So we have the 2 different ones. So
But whether you have it on the 28th or the 11th, you're not going to make either one. The city council will be the 18th for either one of those meetings. So.
okay.
Two public hearings on one night?
Do you see
Yes.
Mark?
No, well,
So I,
See Mark?
Yeah.
we're not sure
Tell him hi for me. I don't see him.
Well, we would.
what it needs as far as time-wise on the other.
it's up to you if you guys want it 2 weeks or in 4 weeks. Like Ryan said, either way.
So this one we can do in the 2 weeks, and then the other was the thing for Jody, right?
Yeah.
So does Jody's have to be 2 weeks notice as well?
That's what we don't know.
Oh, I
Because
see.
it's the
Okay.
General
Yeah.
plan, it may fall under different guidelines for a
Okay.
more time frame.
Okay, sounds great.
Well, we trust your guidance. All right. Do we have any other discussion items? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.